Hey guys, welcome to CREATE+CO podcast. Today I sit down with Bridgette Bello, publisher of Tampa Bay Business and Wealth magazine. Hope you enjoy our conversation. Bridgette, thank you so much for joining me on CREATE+CO. I'm a big fan of you and Tampa Bay Business and Wealth. I want us to just have some real conversations about leadership and in creating the places that we work and that we lead. I think that a lot of this goes outside of just the physical space, and we'll talk a little bit about your space too, because it's unique, and I think it really reflects your brand and your. Is he making faces
Yes.
at you?
It does sound like we're in the hospital. Sorry. I know we just totally messed everything up. Jason.
It's all right. Thank you for fixing it.
Okay.
Anyway,
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for coming. So we're going to talk about leadership. And we're going to talk about storytelling because that's what you do and you do it wonderfully. So first thing I want to start with, was there a moment in your career where you realized that the stories that we tell truly shape a leadership direction and or a culture that leader might want for their people?
So that's a big question. My career of telling stories spans about 35 years. And I have loved every minute of it. It's my favorite part of what we do, honestly, and particularly the cover stories that we do.
Yeah.
But I think the moment that I realized the impact that it could make is the moment that the industry started to take a bit of a turn. And that the more kind of negative and salacious the headlines were, the more apt people were to click on them and to want to read them and to want to pay to read them. And I think a lot has gone negative in our society as a result of that. That's not something that we participate in. We try very hard to make sure that we're actually having a positive impact on people's lives and people's companies and their businesses and their spaces and their teams. But yeah, that would probably be my best example of really what I believe that attitude has done to us as a society.
And you started this magazine how many years ago?
Almost 8.
Okay. And when you started it, and I know I'm going off script here totally,
That's okay.
but I do want to hear a little bit more about how Tampa Bay Business and Wealth began. And I know it was a passion for you. So can you give us just a little background of what brought you to do that on your own? And I think maybe started to talk a little bit about that here, but let's just dive into that because you're a leader in this industry. And I want to know, a little bit about backstory.
Well, that would take us a long time. So I will give you the shortest version possible. It isn't and wasn't just me. There was 3 of us that kind of hooked arms and walked out together and said, we think that this would make a positive, not only economic impact on the region, but again, also on people's kind of mental health and their teams and everyday lives, right? Mm-hmm. So the 3 of us were at a different publication prior together and had all worked together for many, many years and all kind of had the same attitude as far as what we thought the influence of the media could be on the community, really on the world. But, we decided to attack Tampa Bay first, right, before world domination.
Sure.
And that's from day one, a philanthropic mindset, very much uplifting not only nonprofits, but also local companies, people who are infusing millions of dollars into our economy, who are employing hundreds of people, all the way down to the companies who are maybe are solopreneurs and kind of everything in between. But it was through a lot of lessons that were learned with previous employers and just things that we thought that it's every entrepreneur story, right? We thought we could build a better widget. And so we set out to build a better widget, which in this case is a community publication that's focused in the business space.
Awesome. And that says a lot about your leadership and the subculture I think you must have been maybe subconsciously creating, that you were able to take that with you and carry that forward into this organization. And I think that's great.
It's all about the people we surround ourselves with, right?
Exactly.
And we were all like-minded and we all had a similar vision for what we thought we could build. And everybody kind of brought their own unique talents to it. And for the first 4.5 years, it was literally 3 of us.
That's impressive.
Thanks.
I know you ramped up quickly, not so much in, people and the efforts and everything that you were doing and
volume.
Yes, the volume, exactly. But I think that is impressive and that the three of you took that on and that was huge. And I love, before world domination, yes, Tampa Bay area. And it's a great place to start though. I mean, there's so much to uncover here in this small world that we live in. And so I really appreciate that.
Thank you. Yeah, we all said had we been in any other market, we didn't know that it would have had the same impact and that it would have been so well received so quickly.
Yeah.
I really think that's one of the wonderful things about Tampa Bay is I think we're pretty open-minded, welcoming, not only to new people, but to new ideas and new concepts. You look at what's happened. Water Street is a great example. What's about to happen in Ybor, what happened in St. Pete, right? I mean, there's just been a tremendous amount of forward motion and people being willing to say, sure, that sounds great, right?
Yeah.
Let's give it a shot.
I love that. And as an entrepreneur in Tampa, I appreciate that there is open-mindedness, there is welcoming. And particularly when you talk about women in business too, I feel like this community is extremely supportive of us as women in business. And that's not so common, in a lot of other markets. And I feel like this market is small enough yet big enough, that great sort of balance of size and composition.
Biggest little small town in America,
Exactly.
right? I'll tell you, the moment I fell in love with Tampa Bay was when I very first moved here and I learned we still had two daily newspapers at the time, that both of them had female publishers. The state's largest law firm was run by a woman. There was a business magazine at the time that's now gone that had a woman publisher. The university was run by a woman, Judy Ginshaft.
Right.
It still is run by a woman. The mayor was a woman, and I was like, this is nirvana. I moved here from Jacksonville. But I just thought, wow, we clearly are very supportive of women in business in this community.
Yeah, I love it. I think this is going in a great direction because we're talking about creating a place. And I think it's okay that we talk about creating a place like a community.
Sure.
Because that's really what you're creating and what you're helping others to create more of is that community. And, bringing us all together and really featuring the people in this community that are making the biggest difference, right? And I know you guys are very much into a lot of the philanthropy. You guys do an amazing job of featuring those organizations and those causes that really benefit from the help of what you're doing. And also featuring business leaders monthly, which is great. And I attend the CEO Connect that you do with those. And I love that because you're not only featuring that person, but you're bringing them into a situation where they can connect and really relate and talk to and uplift the rest of the community with them. And I really appreciate that.
I always love hearing other people tell what it is that we do and why it's so special, right? But sometimes I wish I could carry you guys around with us.
Did I do an okay job?
You did a great job. Yeah, absolutely.
I think what's interesting for me is we're not a large company. CREATE is a very small company, women owned, but I still feel like I'm welcome. I still feel like I am a part of that community enough that I can engage in it and I can meet others. And I think that's important because sometimes that can feel a little bit overwhelming, a little bit hard to kind of break into or be a part of. And I don't feel that way, and I think a lot of other small businesses that are also associated with that and attend your events and are engaged also feel that way. So
That's great
I think
to hear.
That says a lot.
98% of business is small business,
Yes,
right?
it is.
So we better make sure that we're including them in those big conversations, obviously.
Yeah,
And we have a lot of small business here in Tampa Bay.
we do. I think I'm so proud to be one
too.
of them. As a unique vantage point as a publisher and a leader, are there any aha moments as you're talking about starting a publication and getting going and really starting to tell the stories that you feel like have the most positive impact on this community? Were there any big aha moments either that you had or an aha moment that somebody you had interviewed had an aha moment about our community or about dialing in into more of their own culture and their people and their teams? Was there anything that was just like really cool to find out or that you just thought, wow,
Lots.
this is
so many. So
Give me a
many
couple
aha
or
moments.
one.
I keep referring to myself these days as being experienced. I used to be the youngest person in the room always, and that's just not the case anymore, right? I think about over my career, a tremendous amount of aha moments. One of the ones that I think gets said a lot, but that doesn't necessarily get digested a lot is the whole one bad apple thing, right? That was a real aha moment for me. What one person in an organization can do to an amazing organization. And it literally sometimes it's that one person.
Yeah.
So making sure that anybody who's on our bus, as they say, is somebody who's really on our bus and belongs there and is helping perpetual motion in the right direction and not working against us. We had an aha moment with I think it was our 5th issue, where it was a local leader who his story involved a lot of adversity.
Mm-hmm.
His coping mechanisms at one point involved a lot of drugs and alcohol.
Mm.
And his aha moment was the number of people who reached out to him after the story published and asked for his help.
Wow.
Our aha moment was this was almost 8 years ago now, right? There were still people at the time who didn't want to have those conversations out loud. So we caught some flack for publishing that.
Interesting.
And yeah, that was, now it hasn't happened since then. And I think it maybe was an aha moment for them that it was time to embrace and accept that this is a part of some people's lives, regardless of how wealthy or how far up in their careers that they are.
I mean, the general well-being of a person involves
Exactly.
a lot of different aspects.
It does involve a lot of different aspects. And you think about where we are today and recent happenings in this country, and people's mental health is something that we need to be paying attention to, particularly as leaders.
Agreed. Yeah, that's really interesting. And do you think that opened up some doors for some other conversations?
Do I think that opened the door for other conversations?
Yeah,
yes.
like that.
Yes, 100%. 100%. We had another really raw cover story, one of my favorite people in this region, who had dealt with every possible social issue in her life that a person could deal with. She was raped by her father. She was left by her mother. She questioned her sexuality at one point. She entered the military. I mean, like everything you could think of, right? And at the time was running a $30 million company and was brave enough to be raw and say, these are the things that happened to me. And or all of those things happened to you, get up and do something about it, instead of blaming your childhood or the things that happened to you, start taking responsibility for what you do with those and how you move forward from there. So yeah, it really is pretty cathartic, some of the stuff that we get to witness. And we almost never leave one of our cover story interviews without the person crying, shedding tears, literally. If they don't cry, I threaten to kick them in the shin just so they will cry and make it an emotional moment.
But I don't think you have that issue anymore.
No,
do you?
Not often. Every once in a blue moon, but no, not often. So yeah, telling stories when I'm on a Zoom, if I'm at my desk, and you obviously helped us the design of our space. The number of people who say, "Oh my gosh, I love the artwork behind your head," and you can't see it from here. This one's pretty amazing too, but it's 3 different colors and shapes and designs of lips.
Yes.
And they're always like, does it mean anything? And I'm like, yeah, we tell stories. That's right. What TBBW does, right? We tell stories. And they're like, oh my God, that's so cool. So it's one of my favorite
by
things.
Which we tell stories.
Yes, we do need our lips for that.
That's funny. I love that. And when we were working together and come up with the designs for the space and all, and that was one of the things you said, this has to come. And I said, absolutely. They're so fun. And they speak so much, literally and figuratively speak so much to who you are and what you do and the storytelling that comes with that. I love the story about the person that shared a lot of their personal adversities with you. And I think that's a really good lesson for leadership in general and how they deal with their teams, how they encourage their teams, how they should have kind of an open door, an open ear policy. Because I think there's a lot to be said in feeling like you can't talk about it. And like you said, the bad apple can basically wipe out a large chunk of an organization, if not all of it, depending on the size. But at the same time, hiding something because you feel like you have to can have a very similar effect, can
Absolutely.
it not? Because
it's a cancer.
It is a cancer. So I think that's a really important lesson, an aha moment that you should share with all of leadership. And we try, as we talk to executive teams and as we work with them to strategize on their space and design. And we're designers and architects, but we wind up being psychologists a lot of times,
of course,
inadvertently, especially on our residential side. But yes, because we get them to open up. I think that's a cool part, and a similarity that we have is we can't really design your space that well until we really know who you are. Now, I don't expect people to cry when I leave the room. I would rather them not, because
Right.
I want them to be okay with the budget, everything that we're talking about. But the storytelling piece of it is just as important. And if I don't understand the story, you know, when we started talking, we started out with having a cocktail together. I got to know you, and we got to know each other and how we work and what our passions are. And that has to translate into the design. And sometimes you don't have a lot of personal input in that if you were on a board or it's a much larger project, but everything starts at the top.
Sure.
You know, the permission to talk, the accessibility to each other, and just telling the story. And if your organization doesn't understand your story or your leadership team's story, then it's going to be really hard for them to get on board with the culture, you know, and really feel like they belong to that. So I love that. That's a great parallel.
Thank you.
We talked a little bit about culture, but is there anything else that just rounds out the conversation we were having about good apples and bad apples, and how do we maintain that culture as leaders?
We've done 80, I'm going to get this wrong, 85, I think, cover stories at this point, and there's not a single one of them that hasn't talked about their culture and hasn't talked about their people, the importance of that. Yes, absolutely.
Good.
I think that the rank and file oftentimes don't think that they're as important as they are to a leader, and how much of an impact each person has, particularly on smaller teams, right? I mean, you said you're small, you have 10 people, we have 5.
Yeah.
I mean, we do have help from other people in other markets that do some of the things, but there's 5 of us in this office together on a full staff day, right?
Right.
Every one of those people's attitude, mood, health, mental health has a tremendous impact. And maybe it's because of the kind of people. We're very particular about who we put on the cover, right? We don't just randomly put anybody on the cover. And so maybe it's because we are so selective that we do end up with those people who are very culture focused and very people focused. We've even had a couple, and I was knocking them down. I was doing really good there for a while, of the people who had said no, and it's not about me, it's about my team. And we just had somebody that was supposed to be our October cover. He agreed and then said, it's not about me. I don't want to beat my chest. It's about my people. It's about my team. And I'm like, I get that.
Yeah.
But we can't put your team on the cover. They won't fit, right? Won't fit. So how about we start with you? And I can usually talk somebody through that and the impact that it can have on their employees and their employees' pride. The number of times we get calls from people's teams saying, can I come pick up 10 copies because I want to show them to my clients?
Oh, I love that.
And it's not them they're showing their clients, right? It's their leader, it's their company.
Yeah.
So it does instill a tremendous amount of pride in these people teams. And I forgot what your original question was, but I'm hoping that I answered it.
I think we've answered it, but I think, you know, what you're getting at too is that, and maybe that's just part of your vetting process. You're obviously going after people who are good leaders. They are caring. They are, like you said, they want to feature the whole team, you know, and I think that says a lot about a leader that doesn't just jump at the chance immediately and say, yes, I'm in. We'll talk about me.
Right.
So I appreciate that. It just radiates through, you know, just the integrity and the kindness in many ways of those leaders. And you can tell they just care. They care about their community. They care about their company, their families. Most of them are very family oriented.
Yeah, very philanthropic.
And those are the people that you are featuring and that you're vetting out. And I think that says a lot, because I think there could be a tendency of a magazine that features business and wealth to go after those two things before everything else. But I think that's what makes you so unique. And whether you've planned that or not, that is definitely coming
was
through.
Intentional. Yes. You know, the number of times that we get asked how much it costs to be on the cover and how much fun and pride I take in saying, you can't buy the cover, you pay to be on the cover.
I love that.
We will never compromise on it.
And I'm sure most people don't realize that. So I'm here to let that be known.
Thank you.
That you do not.
Appreciate that. Yes, it is not bought and
That's
paid
really
for.
important, because you're very selective for all the right reasons. So post-pandemic and all of the things that we've been through the last few years, including 2 hurricanes and everything else that we're going through, what are the stories that you're engaging in right now about coming back to the office? And how are a lot of the leaders that you have featured dealing with that? You know, are they talking about that a lot? Do they not know? Is it still a very unknown sort of thing? Or they've already made up their minds, and because of the culture they've built, they don't have an issue with this. Are you seeing any particular trends within this community?
I was going to say, I think nationally, we're definitely seeing trends of the return to office,
Yes,
right?
in a very kind of forceful way. So
Yeah.
I'm wondering if is that the same here in Tampa Bay?
You look like you don't like that. You need people in the offices, Kristina. You need them to want to design the space, right?
The interesting thing is that I think the office exists no matter what.
Yeah,
it just looks different.
I agree.
So I'm wondering, what is the conversation that these leaders are having around that? Is it, I need you back in the office because X, Y, Z, or is it, I'm leading you back to the office and here's why we want to be here together? And I hope it's the latter.
I think it's the latter. And
Good.
this is clearly just a matter of opinion because I didn't sit and go through and say, okay, where are they all at from that perspective? I think we hear equal amounts of, we went remote, we never came back. That's how we ended up in this space. I mean, our office was one whole company. All the floors were all one company that owned the building, and then they sold the building and they all went remote, right?
Right.
That gave us a unique opportunity to find a really neat space that we love. They stayed 100% remote. My daughter and son-in-law's company, they're still 100% remote on their teams, but their company is not 100% remote.
Right.
And, we've been interviewing recently and having to have those conversations with people of like, we're really cool if your dog has a vet appointment at 3 and it's close to your house and you don't want to come back after, or, but for the most part, we need to be together. We need to be collaborating. We need that eyeball to eyeball, and our team literally sits eyeball to eyeball from each other. So I think maybe we're a little more progressive here and a little more accepting in Tampa Bay of meet people where they are. If you really want to hire somebody and they really don't want to come to the office, are you willing to lose the talent, right?
Right.
Some people are, some people aren't. So I think as a community, we've done a pretty good job of, it probably doesn't hurt that in the pandemic, everyone moved here because they could work from anywhere. And our traffic, as if it could get worse, got so much worse that I think that's been taken into account too, right? I mean, we had explosive growth in the last 5 years, and it isn't easy to get anywhere.
No, it's not. I mean, it's still easier than most cities, but us, it's still a good commute at the prime times, And I think the time, because there's so much of the hybrid and these flex schedules, there's not really a set rush hour.
No, it's always rush hour.
It's like always rush hour. From 3 to 7 in the afternoon, it's like 7 to 10 in the morning. It's 100%. Just crazy. Yeah. So I get it. And I think we are, and a lot of our clients that are in this area are still trying to navigate that too. And the important thing is, it's like you said, you're here because you want to be here, because that's how you get your business done. And I think that's the key, that even though we would love to design everybody an office for everything, we also recognize that's not always the right thing. We operate from what do you need versus what do we want to give you. And we'd rather negotiate, like you guys have a small office here. We would rather help you just outfit this little office exactly the way you need it, or help a company downsize into something that makes sense for them and give them just more amenities, more of all the things that make, people coming in successful. And we'd rather do that than sell you a giant space that you don't need, because that's not going to work.
We actually went up in space. It is a tiny space, but
it is
there
bigger.
Was 5 of us in 400 square feet less before, right? We were very close.
You were very close in your old space.
Yes. We were very close
you
anyway.
Actually have a storage room in this one, so that's
we do have a storage room
and a meeting room. But I think that's a really good point. Is that we created a space for you with the elements that made the most sense for you. You have an open office where you can work together. You have a room you can go to have a private phone call or a Zoom meeting, and those are really the components that were most important to you. So that's what we designed.
And it came out beautiful.
Oh, thank you. It was such a pleasure to do this.
We're so proud of it.
Oh, good.
And I'm so happy that the wall is finally going to be make its debut.
I love it. So now that everybody is sort of out of the office, and you guys work a lot in the office, how do you navigate being out of the office and still maintaining culture? Because even though you guys are in here, you're also out and about all the time.
Yep.
So what does that look like for you? Does that really just come back to the storytelling and representing the brand when you're out and about? What does that look like for you? Maintaining all of that when you're bouncing all over Tampa Bay.
Well, it's like a lot of hard work. And of course, the first word that comes to mind is communication. But I can also tell you that people in the communications business, we are the worst communicators. We really are. I don't know why that is, but it's the truth. Now, I think trusting your team, being authentic, knowing that everyone's coming from a place of wanting each other to succeed and wanting the business to succeed. I think if you always know that and feel that, A, you have the right people, right?
Right.
And B, you don't have to be next to each other. You don't have to be eyeball to eyeball, because we all know we're all doing everything we can to make sure that the team succeeds, that the business succeeds, that the stories get told and told well.
Right.
So, yeah, I mean, we all have a different variation. I keep looking behind you because this is her first official day, her third day in the office. But the conversation is like, well, at the very least, somebody has to be there to accept the Amazon deliveries. But most days there's time that we're all together and that we get to say, how was your weekend? If not, then on Teams, hey, I hope everyone had a great weekend. Anybody do anything fun? Just try to stay connected to each other however you can.
Just keeping those lines
and
open
communicating
as much as possible. Absolutely. So what excites you the most about the future of leadership?
So many things.
And how your storytelling helps that evolve along.
So we have had a couple of people in more compressed time frame start to ask us, when are you going to do this for another market?
Mm-hmm.
Why can't we have that here? Or can you guys be the ones that help us take this international because you do it so well? I don't know if I'll be alive long enough for that to happen. In a perfect world with a magic wand, neither of which exists, we'd love to be able to bring the concept to other markets and really have the positive impact that we feel like we've had here.
Yeah.
In other places.
So the answer's not no.
It's not no. It's not now, right?
Right.
Where things are, for the last couple of years, have been just a little uncertain, and the economy has been a little weird, and it's not the right time. And there's a part of me that's probably afraid to find out that it really is that much of a special community that just Tampa Bay gets to have this concept, right?
Interesting.
There might be a little fear of that in there somewhere. But I love watching the evolution, right? It's funny, when I moved to Jacksonville, it was 93, right out of college. They didn't have the Jaguars at the time. And the nicest store that they had was a Jacobson's that went out of business.
Ooh.
And I got to see that kind of as the team got there and the community started to evolve around. I think it was the Jaguars. I mean, I don't think that was the only thing it was.
Yeah.
But I think it had a significant impact on that community.
Definitely a spark.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Made them wake up and say, we should probably have a little bit better shopping, right. Restaurants,
People want to do other things before and after the games.
And I kind of feel like I got a little bit of a catbird seat here too, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, moving in 2007, you asked me about one of my biggest surprises and one of our biggest opportunities. And that has not changed. What has changed is that now I'm the person saying to the people that are moving here, oh my God, it's gotten so much better.
Yeah.
Right? That's what people used to say to me when I first moved here. And I thought, how bad was it, right? I mean, because it's pretty rad, you guys.
Have you seen pictures of the area 10 years ago?
This lack of regionalism that we still have. And yes, oh my God, it's gotten so much better, right?
Yeah.
But like I have sat in several different conversations where we have talked about Tampa Bay doesn't have a brand, right? Mm-hmm. Tampa somewhat has a brand. But people who don't live here just think St. Pete is Tampa, right? They just think Sarasota is Tampa. Like, we're all Tampa.
Right.
We're not.
We're not.
And so I think that what I would like to see in, I would say my lifetime, but I prefer in the next 10 years is for us to really develop an identity as a community, a keep Boston weird thing, right?
Yeah.
A moniker that like really tells who we are as a community.
The broader community, the Tampa Bay area.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. And I would love to be a part of telling that story.
Yeah.
I have been part of conversations around that story, and we're kind of leading some of those conversations.
I love that.
Yeah. So I'd really like that. That's probably my next kind of most exciting thing that I'd like to see happen.
I think that's a great idea. Yes, I too would love to be a part of that and tell those stories. Because yes, we're a community, we're a large community. We're also all of these smaller communities, you know, and I live in Gulfport. So we are Cape Gulfport weird and we're this little microcosm of a community. But I love that it all percolates up to the Tampa Bay area. And as that larger community, we have so much more power. We have so much more to offer, you know, and so many different things from one side of the bay to the other. It's impressive when it's all together under one sort of umbrella, because we do have all of those micro communities underneath. So I think that's really exciting. Keep pushing that story.
I will do that.
Thank you. So is there anything else that you want to talk about today? I know you're not typically on this side of the interview, and I appreciate you going through this. It's probably not your biggest comfort zone. I know it gets weird for me too when I go the opposite way, and you know, I'm still in my first year of it. But is there anything else that you haven't really had an opportunity, whether it's in the community or in the businesses or about the future, anything else that you wanted to share that you would just like to be able to talk about before we close out?
I'm trying to think. I mean, I'm pretty loud on social media. I have about, on average, 80 pages a month that I can kind of say whatever I want to say.
Right.
And I mean, I want to be a part of the conversation when the conversation becomes that Tampa Bay has its own identity, right? Having that be a part of my legacy would make me really happy, because it's something I've been talking about for almost 20 years. I've been here for almost 20 years now, longer than I've ever lived anywhere. You know, we love taking the lead on doing things like Philanthropist of the Year and really calling out the people that are doing amazing things in this community. I was shocked when I found out that no one was doing it, right? I mean, the nonprofit sector does it within the nonprofit sector, but really lifting these people up to the greater business community and saying, look what they're doing, and hopefully making them say, why aren't we doing that? I mean, why can't we do that, right?
I think you're giving a lot of people FOMO these days.
That's exactly what we're going for.
And it's amazing to watch, because there's multiple publications and different groups and networks and do things, but you guys are just cranking out events. And I don't mean quantity, I mean quality.
Thank you.
And the level, you know, that these events are is impressive. And you are so regional. Like, you've been very specific in making sure it is fully Tampa Bay, not just Tampa.
Right.
Or, you know, grab a couple people from St. Pete or anything like that. It's, you look at it so holistically. So
Thank you for saying that, because that also was with intention. Tampa Bay doesn't need another event, right?
No.
We have way too many events as a community.
Yes.
So we set out specifically to say it will never be about volume. We will never be in the one event every week or, you know, whatever business. Right. But where are the voids? Where are the places that people are not getting recognized? Companies are not getting recognized. And really making the events that we do be meaningful and impactful, and have the right people in the room and not have the right people in the room, right?
Yeah.
Creating that FOMO. But thank you for saying that, because again, when it gets played back to us and it's like, okay, we did it, right? We did it, we're doing it. So it also gives us permission to keep attempting to do it better and do it more. So thank you.
Keep that. Yeah. So thank you for creating a place in Tampa Bay where you can tell stories about our great community leaders and our nonprofits and the businesses, and kind of upholding, you know, that integrity in this community. And keep the FOMO up, keep telling the stories. I love it. And thank you for all that you do for the community. I think it's really great.
Thank
you for being here.
A chance to talk about it.
No worries. Hey friends, if you enjoyed today's episode, please join in the conversation at CREATE+CO Podcast on LinkedIn or Instagram. And don't forget to subscribe. We're so glad you tuned in to Create a Place, and look forward to seeing you next time.